Good evening, my fellow truth seekers. Welcome. I see you all on the webcast, Skyping in, you're on the phones. I appreciate you all being on this final call for the MiracleMindFest Summit. I so thank you for tuning in this evening. I'm just a little touched about this whole summit, and I'm feeling a little sad. It's all a little bittersweet, but we'll get into that toward the end of the call. I am Simone Salmon, host of the MiracleMindFest Summit, and this is going to be a fantastic gathering of spiritual truth seekers. And I'm just truly grateful to the universe for bringing our spirits together this evening. I wanted to first thank all of you who have actually sent me some really beautiful emails in the last couple days. This is really touching, sweet sentiments. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your thoughts about the summit and, how the conversations have touched you in so many ways. I'm just so happy that something has resonated with you, and I thank you for the messages that you have sent to me. Before we begin tonight's call, I wanted to give a quick background on the summit. The MiracleMindFest Summit was actually created from pure inner guidance. The intent of the summit is to foster enlightenment and empowerment through the sharing of wisdom, and to also provide the tools necessary to equip each of you with the courage to have unwavering trust in divine intelligence and follow your inner guidance. By doing this, it is my sincere hope that you will achieve alignment with your true purpose. Know that as we co-create this amazing community of truth seekers, the universe in all of its infinite power will conspire to deliver the messages and answers you seek to create your miraculous reality if it is in your best interest and for your highest good. Our guest this evening is Dierdre Abrami. Dierdre is a sixth-generation psychic intuitive healer who is an internationally known spiritual teacher, counselor, and former radio show host. After her near-death experience in 2003, her passion became her purpose. Today, she offers private psychic intuitive readings, group readings, psychic development courses, workshops, and conferences. Dierdre is currently pursuing a master's degree from Nova Southeastern University to expand her private practice. She is a certified angel therapy practitioner and certified medium by Doreen Virtue, PhD, a past life regression therapy training by Dr. Brian Weiss and Carol Weiss, MSW, Universal Life Reverend, Theta Healing Practitioner, Reiki Master, and Energy Healer. Dierdre, you know how excited I am for you to be on my final interview. Welcome.
Thank you. You speak so well. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. My heart is just it's aching just a little because this is the final interview, but it's just been such a fantastic co-creation with everyone, and I'm just truly blessed that you are here this evening. So can we start our discussion this evening with how you basically developed your intuitive gift? I know that you went through some serious health issues, and for a while you denied your gifts. So can you share with everyone exactly what happened and how you decided, how it all came to be that you actually decided to get on the path, your true path?
Absolutely. Where do I begin? When people always say, well, since you're a sixth-generation psychic, you must have known as soon as you were born that you were intuitive, that you had these gifts, as they call them. And I disagree. Although I know growing up, I was maybe interested in pyramids and UFOs at the age of 6 when my friends were playing with Barbies. But I truly, the psychic family is on my dad's side. And my dad, interesting enough, even though he has 4 psychic sisters, ignored his own intuition. So with that said, I really was not raised by my parents in a psychic metaphysical family background. I really came from a white picket fence with really, I was raised, because people always say, well, what religion? We weren't religious, so to speak. Maybe my parents, what they did is they raised me as a Methodist background, but we weren't religious. Maybe went to church once a year of that. So what happened with me is I would say things to my friends, and they would come true, or people would have reactions like, how'd you know that? And I found myself very quickly, because I was never one of those that wanted to be the one that everybody was looking at or listening to. Back then, I was kind of like to be in the background. And so I really had to, what I did was I ignored it, I'll be honest, and I hid it. So when I would say things, my friends would say, well, how do you know that? And then I would quickly be like, oh, I don't know, and I'd change the subject. Then in high school, it was really funny because I just came back. I'm from New York, Long Island originally, if you can't already hear my accent. But and I live in Florida now. I know, especially because I spent a month in New York, so now I came back with this accent again. But anyway, we were just laughing with my old high school buddies I was with last week, and they were all laughing with me and saying, remember, Dierdre, we used to call you Weirdre instead of Dierdre because you used to make predictions? And they would come through. And we were just laughing so hard. Now I can laugh, now that I'm 29, but back when I was 16, 17, I really hit it because back then I wasn't secure. I absolutely did not trust my intuition. I thought I would be judged and criticized, so I ignored it. However, I do have a beautiful aunt by the name of Joan Valereza Passaggio, who's a medium, which means that she can see deceased people. She told me since I was little, someday when you embrace this, you too will do what I do. And I used to just poo-poo what she said. I ignored it. I was like, yeah, Aunt Joni, that's good for you, not for me. So I ignored it. I went to college, got a degree in business, and worked for a corporation for 20 years. And then I got also married and had 2 children. Then this is what happened. When I was delivering my second child, a son named Christian, I had a beautiful, very quick delivery. And as soon as I delivered him, I started to complain of neck pain and back pain. And they were like, oh, you probably just pushed funny or whatever. You probably just strained. You're fine. So you go home tomorrow, you'll be fine. So I did. I couldn't lift my head anymore. And I started to not be able to, I had blurred vision, and I felt very nauseous. Well, it lasted a couple of days, and they got nervous. So my mother, thank goodness, knows me very well and said, something's up. And my psychic aunt called and said, get her to the doctor. So next thing you know, they rushed me back to the hospital, and a neurologist comes in the room the GYN says, let's run some tests for you. And one of them was suggesting that I get a brain scan to see my neck and brain. Well, long story short, they found an aneurysm, a cerebral aneurysm. And I was losing my vision very quickly and my perception of balance. And meanwhile, I had a 14-month at home, and I just delivered a baby. So talk about busy times. And I couldn't even lift my head. It was a little scary at that time. But I have to say, something inside of me felt, you're going to be fine. And I just can't put into words. Meanwhile, my mom, and I can't imagine was one of my children, was running around, so worried. And they moved me into a hospital, which I spent a month there. running tests and because of what was going on with my brain. And I have to say, my psychic aunt and my psychic grandmother, which at the time, believe it or not, I didn't even know she was psychic, came to me in the hospital. I was just getting ready to be pushed in for another surgery, and they came in and they said, you need to heal this. And the reason being is not just because you have 2 kids that you have to raise. And when you heal this, you're going to change many lives. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I'm like, okay, grandma, crazy aunt, go away. I'm going into surgery. So it was a test that required an angiogram, and I came out of it fine. It took a couple of months to get my vision back. And one night in the shower, I heard a voice that came to me that said, close your eyes and visualize a white light coming from heaven. And visualize this light going into your brain. And visualize this in your brain where your aneurysm is. And now visualize as though this white light is erasing, like a pencil eraser, erasing that aneurysm away. And it was interesting because every night I would go in the shower, this is the same voice would come to me and tell me, guide me to do this. And I didn't know what the heck I was hearing, but for some reason it felt good. It made me feel very peaceful after 2 kids during the day. And the only quiet time back then was at night by myself in the shower and everybody was sleeping. This was probably midnight. It just felt really good. And on the 20th day, I heard a voice that said, it's done. So, okay, I'm a good student. I listen. So meanwhile, I was going back and forth to Manhattan seeing a renowned surgeon for the aneurysm. And he said this time, just send me the reports. We're just going to watch it now. We don't want you to fly anymore right now. So I did. I sent the MRI and the MRA. I overnighted it over to the doctor's office in Manhattan. And 2 weeks later, I received a letter back that I need to frame, actually. I keep forgetting to do that. But anyway, the letter pretty much said, the aneurysm is so small we can't find it. Now, I have to let you know, I've had this test done over 16 times, and it always showed that there was no changes, which is also not so bad. But it was also not so good because of where it was. They were concerned of where it was. If it had erupted, I would be pretty much instantly in heaven.
And I know because, listen, I am aware of, my children's grandfather died from an aneurysm. So that's why I completely know what you're talking about. And they travel. Those aneurysms travel sometimes.
Exactly. And my mom always says this funny verse, a statement of saying ignorance is bliss. I didn't know about aneurysms. I knew nothing about them. I never heard about them. So really, I think the ignorance is being very blissful. Because if I probably would have known things like that, I thought maybe I would have been in a different state of mind. And when the doctors asked, because this is when they were trying to decide about the surgery proceedings, is there any family history? And everybody said, no. I think everybody had amnesia. At the time, which is probably again good because, and I wasn't a smoker and I wasn't a drinker, and there were certain things that they said, okay, let's just leave it alone right now. Come to find out that, of course, a great-grandfather died of an aneurysm, a grandfather died of aneurysm, but everybody at the time when I was in the hospital had amnesia. Which was better off. So that night, after I got that letter, I went into the shower feeling such a high, and I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, why do I feel this way? This feels fantastic. And the same voice came back, and it said, now that you've healed yourself, you have to let people heal themselves. And I didn't really still understand what that meant, but I went with it. Now, also, while this is going on, my psychic aunt stays with me because I have 2 babies at home, and I can't drive, and I can't see. And so this is what's going on while I have this healing going on. My psychic medium aunt would do things such as we're sitting on the couch watching TV, and my aunt out of nowhere starts talking to the air, saying, oh, hi, how are you? What's your name? I'm saying, Aunt Joni, who are you talking to? You don't see that guy there? I said, what guy? She's like, that soldier. Don't you see him in the uniform? I think he was from the... And I'm thinking to myself, okay, crazy. And I said, what is he doing here? And she's like, he's just walking through. He wanted to check out things. I said, can you tell him to leave, please? This was my life. That night, I will never forget this. That night, I had the covers up to my neck, and I was looking around going, I hope that freaking spirit is not here. I'm going to have to tell my aunt to leave now because I know it's her that's bringing all these damn spirits to my house and haunting it now because of her. So go away. That was my ignorance. I was so scared of talking to the other side. I laugh now because it's been so many years. My son is now 10, and I get the MRI every year, and it's been 10 years that I've had a clean bill of health. And so really it took a year, so I would say 9 years traditionally, but 10 years ago is when I found out about it. And as of today, the aneurysm has not come back. And, one last thing about the part with the voice that said about the healing. This was very important, which I so did not understand at the time. The voice said, if I go back to the old way of thinking, that aneurysm would return. Now, in those 20 days, I started to change my thoughts from negative to positive. I caught myself when I would think of something negative about myself, somebody else, a situation. I immediately switched it. So let's say I turned it into being very grateful, and it just changed my whole energy. And what was amazing is once I did that, I started to notice everybody around me shifting too. I'm like, wow, this stuff really works. So when I went to class, so after I started to feel so grateful, the more grateful I felt, the more things I knew about people, the more things that I saw that I never saw before. I would feel these great feelings of protection and healing and love. It was the first time I felt love on a much deeper level. And I finally started to understand when people would say, I have this belief and faith. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? But now I was starting to feel it and see it and know it.
Yeah.
And that was all new to me. That was all new to me.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Right? And I didn't understand that prior. Although I came from this psychic family, we never talked about any of that stuff. It was more my aunt would say, I would see your grandmother, your grandfather passed on, and that was it. That was really the topic, and that was it. She would see deceased, she would talk about him, and that was it. Other than when my girlfriends, to go back when I was recovering at my house, it was really sweet. A lot of the moms in the neighborhood would come with a dish, and with this, to kind of rotate for dinner, so we didn't have to cook for over a month, which was very sweet. But this was what the funny part was, is when the mothers would come to the door with food saying, this is for the family tonight, my aunt would answer the door and give them a prediction, and they all left crying. And nobody knew. It was always a secret. I never told one person that I came from a psychic family. Never. So you can't imagine how popular by the end of the month my house became.
Wow.
The community wanted to come to bring a dish because they knew they'd get a reading on the way out. I laugh about all this now, but truly, 9 years, 10 years ago, I would be like, Joni, please don't tell another prediction. I'm going to be so embarrassed. Now it's really, 10 years ago, I was so embarrassed. They actually gave us a reputation in my community that went out very quickly, where we started to, it took a couple of months to fully get my vision back. And and to feel good, I was able to now walk around with no chronic pain anymore. I was off the morphine. It was wonderful. And we started to receive a reputation, myself, my aunts, and my friends, which was interesting. They all had a coming out party too, where we would go to parties and we were called the Witches of Boca Raton.
Oh my gosh.
That was our reputation for a while. It was hysterical. It was like an inside joke. And before you knew it, I know, right? It was so funny. And before you knew it, my aunt said, you're going to start teaching people how to do this. And I said, what? I don't even know what I'm doing. Are you crazy? And sure enough, one by one, friends started to come. They said, you should teach this. And before you know it, they said, you should do readings and give readings to people. I was like, no, I don't want anybody to know I'm psychic. And they said, well, will you give me a reading? And I'd say, sure. And said, just don't tell anybody. Well, of course they did. And before you know it, I was doing hundreds of readings in a month. And it was really, before you know it, people said, you should charge for this. But it, once I got my confidence, I did. I started to charge meetings and classes, and it just evolved. And I laughed because the first New Age conference I went to, unfortunately they don't come to Florida anymore, but I think it's called the Mind, Body, Spirit Expo or something. Anyway, I went, and I didn't tell anybody I was going. I was one of those. I went in, I was like, if anybody sees me, they're going to think I'm crazy, but I went by myself, and I went to a booth, and it was an intuitive who also sold beautiful jewelry, and he was talking to a fellow customer, and I'm looking at his crystals that look so beautiful. I'd never seen them before, and he turned around, and he stared at me, and he said, you need to publish those books, and he points his finger at me, and I'm like turning around, like, who the heck is he talking to? And then he turned around, and he kept on talking to the woman, and then he turned around, I'm sorry, they're nagging me. You have to write those books. They're telling me. He's like, are you a psychic? I said, no. And he goes, all right, never mind. So I went to the next.
So you were still denying it?
I was so denying it. And I went to the next booth, and this woman that was doing private readings, I said, maybe I'll get a reading. It'd be nice from somebody other than my relatives to give me a reading. I never had one before, and I was signing it, and the girl looked at me. She goes, are you an author? I was like, are you kidding me? I don't even know how to spell. You want me to be an author? So it was so funny. And then she gave me a reading, and of course she saw me as a speaker and author and all these things that I was like, yeah, okay, crazy. Then I went and got another reading, and guess what that person said? All the things I said. So here again we are today. I'm finally writing 2 books simultaneously now, and I speak and have other great things going on. But so that was my coming out party, I call it, because I was in the closet for 40-something years, really. And or 29, as I say, and I say if I only knew now what I know in my 40s when I was 20, wouldn't that be wonderful? But truly, some people can. Some people embrace it when they're early. Like my aunt, she embraced being a psychic medium at the age of 2. I needed to go through my own learning and lessons older. I had to go through other things first, life experience first, I feel. And now I have the time and energy, and I have evolved and learned so much that now I can embrace this and help others. I couldn't 20 years ago. No way. I didn't even know who I was.
Yes. And you know what? There's several things that you touched on. One, I completely get the denial because I went through the same thing when I was younger. I mean, I could hear spirits. I could, the dreams that I would have could be very vivid and come true. And I didn't want people to think I was crazy. I don't, it's the stigma that's attached to, And my grandma, you said, my grandma would tell me, oh, there are witches in our family. And I would just laugh because I was just like, what is this woman talking about? There are witches in our family.
Right, exactly.
But can we talk about the healing part of this? Because I'm still getting folks who, are going through their own disease and are not really getting how they can heal themselves, and how can someone who has a debilitating disease or even a disease that is incurable, and sometimes that happens, or just normal disease, dis-ease, that's wreaking havoc either mentally, physically, spiritually, however, how can they begin to self-heal?
Absolutely. I'll be honest, it wasn't a one-pill fix. I find that a lot of people today in 2013, because of technology and the speed between emails, texting, and social media, people want the one-pill fix. And that would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
My transformation, one thing I've learned over the years, when there's a healing going on, it really, I truly feel, has to start on the mind the body, and the soul level. All three have to be interconnected in this healing. And what I mean by this, the mind.
I love that you said that. Go ahead.
The mind, I feel, I know people are going to be mad at me saying this, but only through my own healing, that all our aches and pains and diseases start with a thought. A thought of, I'm not good enough. A thought that something that could have happened yesterday or years ago that we're still holding on to. People we haven't forgiven or forgiving ourselves. Believe it or not, if we constantly, repetitively instill a thought from an emotion, we can actually cause aches and pains and diseases on certain parts of our body. Then that's the mind part of it. The body part, it affects our body. But I also feel what's coming up for a lot of my clients lately is food. I feel with proper nutrition, with our environment, we have to go back to the basics of eating backward greens and fruits and vegetables. And I know it sounds silly, but through my own healing, I had to eat a better lifestyle. I had to get away from boxed food and eat fresh foods and understand all of that. So that's also the body. Now, also with that said, they're telling me now to make sure I say this, is a lot of us, especially women, we beat ourselves up with our bodies. We think there's a certain image that we have to look like, whether it's TV or print material, media, that we have to look like the 6-foot model. And if we don't, we actually start causing, how many women today are dying of ovarian cancer, breast cancer? And guess what? If they really break it down, they're going to see that what caused that? It started as a thought saying, my breasts aren't good enough. They're either too big or too small. Or, my hips are too big. Or I'm not good enough. Or sex is evil instead of a beautiful thing. So they cause it, and this happens over so much time. They cause these illnesses. And then lastly is the soul. Like myself, I shut down my intuition. I shut down my source power, where I felt there was no connection before. So I know, and interesting enough, I had done a little homework on the aneurysm, what that represents. It represents, believe it or not, shutting down your third eye. Ha ha.
Oh, wow, that's deep.
Right? When I found that out, I said, oh my goodness, this makes total sense. And no wonder that voice told me it will come back if you go back to your old ways of thinking. And I had to brainwash myself, truly brainwash myself in a positive way by every time I would think something negative, I would have to, in my mind, replace with something positive. From, like, let's say I would say, give an example. Oh, my thighs are too big. No, my thighs are gorgeous.
And you have to have that emotion with it too, because just saying, "Oh, my thighs are gorgeous," is not going to get you to that.
No,
you have to. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for saying that, because I believe when we manifest, which is part of the whole mind, body, and soul, with the interconnection of it, that we have to have, like you said, your mind has to match your heart. That was something I didn't realize, because people can say, well, how come I can't manifest the lottery today? Well, okay, let's break it down. That $1 million that that you could have won, did you feel deeply in your heart that you deserved that $1 million? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, if your heart doesn't truly feel it, your mind, body, and soul doesn't feel it, guess what? It's not going to happen. So you're right. If you don't feel the healing's going to happen, guess what? It's not going to happen. Another good tool I realized that works really well for me is lighting a candle. Lighting candles, for me, help me focus. I've helped clients that they have done testimonials, I should say, where I've had a client that lives in California, and I'll give you like silly examples, but it works. Her thing, she called me, is because she wanted to manifest a mate. And I told her, get a candle and use that as a focus point. And I told her certain steps to do, kind of like the 3 steps of healing the aneurysm. She did the same thing, but she applied it towards a mate. Well, it worked. I've had people that have healed illnesses because they already knew, like me with the aneurysm. How did it heal? It wasn't, again, that one pill. It was because I knew I was healed. It was done. Yes. It was done. And I've had people, I had a student, because I teach weekly classes, a student who came, and I let people who do have illnesses come for free to my workshops. I feel that's something me giving back. This woman showed up to my class, actually for a private reading last year, and she confided in me. She said, I have stage 4 cancer, and I asked God for a sign. And I was told to go on the computer and look up the word psychic in Florida, and your name came up. And then I saw that you do private readings, and I just knew I had to come see you. So she came for a private session, and during that private session, she actually admitted that she was an alcoholic, a drug addict, had slept with a lot of men that she doesn't even remember half of their names, and had made herself feel so dirty and filthy that she didn't want to live. So in her mind, she felt she shouldn't live. She didn't deserve it. Yeah. And so that was pretty profound. Yeah. So what we did for her was we came up with a plan for her. I said, okay, I'm going to ask you straight out. Do you want to live today? And she finally admitted that her daughter just had a child, that she didn't want to really die now, but she felt it was too late. And I said, it's never too late. I said, we're all eventually going to pass on. That's something that I don't know why society doesn't talk about death and dying, because someday we're all going to do it. It's a beautiful thing instead of a bad thing. Yeah. But anyway, go back to her. So we gave her a plan of action, but she had to do the work. I can't, and as you know, Simone, that's something we just can be the guidance. We can give them tools, but that's one thing I learned. You have to do the work yourself, right? Yes. Yes. You have to do the work yourself.
And I think that's the element, the key that people are missing, because they are believing that, okay, if I go to this person, if I go to a healer, then I'm going to be healed. And if I keep going, I should seek out healers. Yes, that's fine. Do that. If your spirit is guiding you to go to a healer, yes. If your spirit is saying you need to speak to someone about healing, yes. But the reality is that you have to do the work. You have to know deep within yourself that you're going to heal, just like Dierdre is saying. You have to know that and believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're going to heal, that you're already healthy, that you are already healthy, and live your life as if you're already healthy. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to grasp. I completely get it. When you're going through that funk of illness, I get it. You can't even see your way out of it sometimes, And I think that's the part that people are struggling with, because they're just like, but how do I get to that part where I can really start believing that I will be well, that I am going to heal, that I can trust in spirit? Because I think a lot of people out there think, oh, why did this happen to me? If spirit wants the best for me, why am I sick? And I think it goes really well with what you were saying. Your thoughts made you sick. Something that is going on, either past life or, whatever it is that you're struggling with internally from childhood, from another lifetime, it's still within you. And until you can work your way through that, you're going to still be in that dis-ease that you're experiencing.
Exactly, and well said. It's because you're right. Healing goes on many levels: emotional level, physical level, spiritual level, and it is. And you're right. You know how many clients have gotten angry with me by saying, "I caused this"? Were you kidding me? Yeah. And it's one thing for me too. Once I personally, through my own healing, once I finally stopped blaming others in situations, and I started to take, I really started to say, you know what, I caused this to myself. It was, that's when the miracle really started. That is when the miracle started. And people that are out there struggling, saying, okay, how do I know this is working? One thing that really helped me is I asked for signs. I asked Spirit, whatever you believe in, it's non-denominational. I don't believe, religion's wonderful, but I don't believe in denominations. This is just even this true spirit where I ask for signs. I'll give you an example. For me, when I see 111 in different orders, or like if it's 1111 or just 111, or whether it's a clock I look at and I see the time and it's exactly 1111 or 111, or if I see a license plate in front of me, if there's an 11. What was really interesting is when I started my healing with my thoughts, at first when I used to see the 11s, they were telling me, and they catch me every time. When I would think of something negative, I would see 111. They would catch me every time. And I'll give you an example. One day I was really like beating myself up, saying, God, I just had a baby. And I was beating myself up how fat I felt. And it was so ridiculous. And I swear to you, I knew there was a house on my street that the address was 111. And I would purposefully not look at that house, that mailbox, because I knew it had that number on it. And I'm driving down that street thinking all these negative things about myself. And all of a sudden, I said, nope, there goes that house. I'm so not looking at that house. And I was thinking negative about myself. And, of course, at that exact moment, we're driving past that house. My daughter says, Mommy, look at this. And I turn around for my eyes to exactly catch that mailbox. It was beautiful. So for those that are listening out there, that ask for the signs. You will get them. You will get the physical proof, from butterflies appearing out of nowhere to coins that are saying, keep on going. I have this ongoing communication with my deceased grandfather. We used to call him the penny pincher. So, of course, the second he died, I started seeing pennies everywhere. And I'll tell you, he's my biggest motivator. When I'm feeling down, guess what I see? In the weirdest places, pennies. Pennies in the weirdest places, whether they're on my desk or I have a quick funny story. Last year I was visiting a girlfriend in California, and I was just dragging my suitcase, following her into the guest bedroom. And as I'm unzipping the suitcase, she says, do you ever see those pennies anymore? I said, oh, yeah, I see my grandfather. I know he's around. And if I get grumpy, he shows me the pennies everywhere. And I'm unzipping the suitcase. And I lift the lid of the suitcase as we're talking. And can you believe there was like 30 pennies that showered from the lid of this suitcase. Her and I.
Wow.
With her jaws dropped. And she's, and very interested in the metaphysical field, but she's not a psychic, right? Her face still looks like she's going to run out of that room. We were like, oh, my goodness. Okay, you think that was proof? But for those that need a little encouragement along the way, just ask for the concrete signs. They're all around us. And, it's really interesting. Once we take a moment, we'll start really seeing them. And what's really interesting is once you see one, you get addicted. Then you want to see another and another and another. It's amazing. And it makes you feel better every time you see that. Another trick for me, too, is music. When I feel like I need to change my old thoughts into new ones, positive ones, I'm a disco fan. I love my disco. My mom was into disco back in her era, and we used to dance and prance around the house when I was a little girl. So it always stuck in my mind, the disco, and it always made me go back to that time of Mom and I dancing around listening. So anyway, when I feel grumpy, I make the whole house. I put on the disco, and it's amazing how I'll never forget one time when I first tried this out. The kids were fighting. I was fighting with my husband. The energy in the house was terrible. I said, I heard, put on your disco. I'm like, what? I heard disco. I'm like, okay. I put on the disco very, reluctantly, and guess what? It was like a miracle. My kids started dancing. We all started doing, I think, the old, what was that?
Yeah.
Fever.
I believe you. And it's because you were changing the frequency at which you were vibrating. That's what you were doing.
Exactly.
And I think that's, it's really that simple. It's, if you're thinking negative thoughts or you're, feeling depressed, you have to take the step to change your vibration. You have to make that deliberate step to say, I'm going to be filled with joy, and start thinking of things that you're grateful for. Start thinking of the blessings that have occurred in your life, even if it's one blessing. And, you know, I'm being guided to say I get that there's some folks who still are kind of struggling with how to move to that point or how to even make that first step. Please remember, when I first saw The Secret, it might as well have been a different language because I didn't know what the heck they were saying on that thing. It just did not. At the end of watching The Secret, I was like, what the hell is The Secret? Did I miss The Secret? What? I missed The Secret. I didn't hear what The Secret was.
I'm so funny you say that. Exactly. Well, for me, when I was so excited, I started to take metaphysical classes, and I never forgot when I got the results back that I had healed this aneurysm, and I'm so excited to tell everybody, oh my goodness, I saw this 3-step visualization, I think positive, and it got healed. This is amazing stuff. And I thought I was the only person that knew about it. So I'm in a class sitting next to a student bragging about this whole thing, and she said, oh, do you ever hear of Louise Hay? I'm like, who? So I'm like, she goes, you've never heard of her? It sounds like what you're doing. I said, she goes, I thought maybe you read her books. I said, I never heard of the woman. So it was hysterical. So I go online when I get home and I read about her and I go, I was so depressed. I said, I thought I came up with this stuff. I have no idea about that. You know, certain emotions can cause illnesses, and with positive thoughts and affirmations, you can heal yourself. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I thought I was the only person who came up with it. So after my depression, I turned my energy around, and I realized that you're right. You're right. And you know what's interesting? What do they say? When you're ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
And that was so true for me. So true for me. It just seemed like when I was ready for that next step, that next person just evolved for me. And still is.
Correct.
As I'm a teacher, I'm always going to be a student. I never want to be stagnant. I always want to learn. I'm like a sponge. Right?
Yes.
We're like sponges. The more we...
I'm telling you, I cannot get enough of learning about different modalities and different ways of healing and different thoughts on truth and, you know, spirit. I am a sponge. I want to know everything. And really, it's just ongoing. It's every single moment of the day that I'm in that state. But I feel alive when I'm doing that. And I think, you know, that's another way people can actually get to a different vibration is if you start to think outside of what's going on in you, you know, and start to seek the truth outside of what's going on inside of you. Because if you start to look at, you know, how other things are going on in the world, how the rose blossoms, how people, the things that are beautiful, that are created constantly around you, if you start to really marvel at that, I think it takes you into a different vibration naturally, and it raises your frequency to where you need to get to. So, you know, there's just so many different ways of getting to where it is that you need to be as far as energetically, and that's what this whole summit was about. You know, every guest that's been on this summit is bringing you the truth in a different way, is their experiential way, and it's for you to resonate with one of them. And if you don't resonate with any of them, at some point you will, and I say that all the time.
And you know what's interesting?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I
remember the first spiritual conference I attended, the person who came out to introduce said, we have over 35 speakers over the weekend. And a lot of them will have the same topics and subject matters. Well, there'll be that one person that you will personally resonate with.
Exactly.
It is so true. I meant to mention that woman I was talking about that had the 4-stage cancer that came to me for the classes last year. Well, last month she came to the class and made an announcement that her cancer is in remission.
Oh,
and it actually, they said the tumor shrank. So There you go. And it wasn't just me hearing the proof. She shared it with the whole class.
Oh, what a blessing. Oh, my goodness. What confirmation for you and for her. Oh, that's wonderful. That's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Absolutely. So if anybody, and, you know, it didn't take one just thing. She really took the horns and went with it, and the bull by the horns, as they say.
It's taking a leap of faith. It's really literally taking a leap of faith. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I know that you also work with spirits and guides and angels. How can folks better connect with their guides and angels? You know, some people are feeling, I had a wonderful email from this lady, Melissa. And Melissa, I tell you, your email touched me beyond belief when I read it today. And she wanted to know how she could better connect with her guides and angels because she's having sporadic kind of random connections, and she wants to know how can she get, you know, in that vibration where she's connecting with them on a constant basis.
You know, that's a very common question. That's probably like one of the top questions that people ask me. And one thing I learned is trust. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't trust yourself, how are you going to trust giving messages to other people? How are you going to trust that your angels and guides and spirits are always there with you? So the number one thing is your trust, your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is tied in with the trust. So really, really understand your self-esteem. And then once you build your self-esteem and build your trust, the next thing is practice. There is no special pill again. I always like to make that one special pill is practice, practice, practice. Have faith, trust, and practice.
Yeah, and talk to them all the time. Have conversations with them all the time. That's what I do.
Exactly. It really, I ignored my intuition for 35 years. And then my aunt, who's a great medium, I would say to her, how do I see like you? She'd tell me, close your eyes. Okay, I got them closed. Now what, Joan? Just close your eyes. I'm like, it's not working. Now what? So me, being the analytical person, believe it or not, that originally majored in architecture, today I'm a psychic, right? Using a whole different side of my brain. Was very analytical, read every book imaginable, and it still wasn't working. So then had to go to another level. I had to take time to quiet my mind. And yes, I wish I could spend hours upon hours in the Buddhist tradition and do my ohms for hours and clear my mind. Yeah, I wish I could, but it doesn't work that way for me. But those that can do it, good for you. I'm very jealous and envy of you. But for those that are like more like me, where maybe our mind tends to wander sometimes, you know where I really meditate and connect with spirit is the shower, believe it or not. Those that are really water conservationists probably are cringing right now, but I love the water. But water really opens you up. It relaxes you. You can't answer the phone. You can't return an email, and you're focusing solely on spirit. So that's where I would also suggest that you make time. Now, another thing I did learn from my grandmother, who's a psychic, said, make an appointment with your guides and angels. Say that, all right, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, meet me at 9 a.m. in my bedroom. It doesn't have to be formal, and it doesn't matter. If you're a morning person, do a morning time. If you're a night person, do it night. But I will forewarn you, once the doors open, they may start waking you up, and I call it the witching hour, which is around 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., more like 3 or 4 a.m. Most of my clients call me and they say, I'm waking up between 3 and 4 in the morning. I said, because you're so busy during the day, you're finally in this theta state, altered state, where now you can communicate with the other side. You think they can get through to you when you're juggling kids, work, the job, this, that? No.
Yeah.
So that's the time. So that's my best. I do teach weekend workshops, And really, I build people slowly. The first day, actually, you know what I do to open people up? The first thing I have to get through to people is to get rid of all their beliefs. Any old negative beliefs that they have about being intuitive, that's one of the first things I have to do with them. And how do we do that? I do chakra balancing with them with a meditation. I do a past life regression session with them if there's any past lives that were attached to not embracing their own intuition, I do with them. We do forgiveness exercises where I'll have them write on a paper during a meditation and say, if anybody said you were crazy or bad-mouthed you, forgive them now, or forgive them for other things, and forgive yourself, mostly. So first
that's what I preach, yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's day one is really, I spend almost a whole day just doing that for my workshop. Because if I can't do all that first, and I'm not even going to waste my breath trying to get them to the second level. So that's the first thing we do, is I have them do all those exercises and all the healing work day one. Now on day two, they come in fresh in the morning, and then I start having them develop slowly into it. Now let me go back. Before they even do the workshop, I highly recommend they don't watch negative TV. They don't eat anything that makes them feel horrible. They don't, because I know some people say you should be a vegan, you should be in a raw diet. Hey, I'm not like that. I'll tell a quick funny story. The first time my fiance and I went to a raw food workshop, right after he and I looked at each other and said, how about we go to that steakhouse for dinner? So I'm not a vegan or a raw food person. Anyway, by eating meat makes you feel horrible, obviously don't eat it. But if it makes you feel good, eat it. So I kind of prepare people for that. So now, day one, we get rid of all their old beliefs. The forgiveness exercises, we do past life exercises. Now day two, now they're ready. Now they're really ready to really focus in and hone in their own unique abilities. That's another thing people do, which is, I used to do it. I would compare myself. Hey, how come my aunt can see deceased people and I don't see them like her? I would compare myself. My grandmother. How come my grandmother can look into 7 of your past lives and I don't see it that way? That was another thing. Once I learned that we're all unique, and what kept coming to mind is pretend that we're all playing a basketball game. Can you imagine we're all on the same team, but we all have to play a different position? Why? Because if we all played the same position, we would lose the game. So that was one thing I always reiterate to my students. Do not compare yourself to your neighbor. Put your ego, that criticizing ego of yours, on a shelf and leave it there during the whole workshop. And don't bring it back. And it's amazing. When people do that, they just, this is the best when I left. Before my workshop, I'll have people come up to me privately and say, listen, I don't even know why I'm here. I can't see anything. I can't feel anything. I don't know. Maybe I should just quit now. Those, I swear to you, 99% of the time that my students that come up to me and do that, do you know that by the end, they are like the best, most connected students?
Wow.
Because once I say to them, you know what, just be you. Just be you. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason you're here.
Yes.
And it's beautiful. By day 3, these people are channeling, connecting, and channeling is not, people have the feeling like channeling means that you have to see only. But the TV shows out there and the media that's out there, when somebody says the word psychic, they think they see only. And it's not that way. Most people actually, they have intuition with feeling. Meaning, let's say you walk in a party and you see somebody that you don't feel comfortable with. You can't put your finger on it, and your gut is telling you don't get close to that person. There's something up about them, but you can't put your finger on it. Most people channel that way, believe it or not. Let's say you're driving down the street and something's telling you, make that right turn, do not make that left. And then if hopefully you listen, you make that right. Can't put your finger on it. You didn't see anything. You didn't hear anything, but you just had this gut feeling. A lot of people will also get goosebumps. That's a sign.
Yes.
Or
yes.
that sick feeling, that happy feeling, or that is channeling. And some people they don't like the word channeling, which is fine. That's more of a new age term. But That is just intuition. I feel we are all born with it for a reason, a sense, a sixth sense to tell us. And who I feel helps us with our senses is our guide. We're all born with them. And one thing I always laugh about when people say, well, what is a guide? I say, well, my belief is this, that right before we're born, we meet with a panel of experts, and we have to convince them and convince ourselves why we're coming back to Earth, why we're being born again. And we have to say, well, because it's for learning reasons, it's to help us with our evolution, to maybe fulfill karma or debt, whatever people think or believe. And we have a guide that, and then we sign a contract, so to speak. Well, some people call it your Akashic Records, the Book of Knowledge, you name it. So we write, okay, I'm going to come and I'm going to choose those people as my parents. I'm going to have that kind of body. I'm going to live in that place. And when I tell people, they're like, what? I chose my parents? Were you crazy? I chose this body? Were you crazy? So anyway, you write this all down supposedly on a contract, and then bang, you're born. And you forget everything you signed up for. So your guide's job is to remind you. So that is the friendly reminder when you are driving down the street and you're getting that gut feeling to make that right. And maybe you make a left and your guide is going, damn, they didn't listen again. They're twiddling my thumbs again. They're not listening. So that's what I feel your guide's job is. And they will stay with you until the day you go back home. And if for those of you that are really detailed and want to know what their name is or who they were, a lot of them were supposedly probably relatives, family members in another lifetime. They probably were not members of your family in this lifetime, but other lifetimes. Mine is named Ralph. It couldn't be some luxurious angelic name. Mine had to be Ralph. And what's hysterical is during workshops, when different, because I have workshops I put on weekly, and I bring in other speakers, kind of like you're doing with the summit. And when I crack up when people are under meditation, they'll say, who's Ralph? I'm like, damn, all right. And you know what's really funnier is when I don't listen to him, because I don't, I'm human. I wish I did, because if I did, I'd be perfect, whatever that means. And he always comes through. Like, if I'm not listening, I will see a billboard that has the name Ralph in it, or I'll hear a song that has the name Ralph in it.
Oh, my goodness.
It's hysterical. He will get to me no matter what. But guess what I do now? I talk to Ralph like I'm talking to you right now. And I say, Ralph, hey, why don't you help me with this? Or, Ralph, why am I in this traffic jam? Get me out of here. Or, Ralph, hey, I'm at the mall. Give me the front row parking spot because I'm a little lazy today. I need to feel like walking. And I tell you, so that Ralph gets me. And I always get the front row parking spot. I always end up getting out of a traffic jam. It is amazing.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is that, you know, it's an ongoing dialogue. Like, don't just ask when you're in dire need or, you know, when you want something big. You can ask for, like, the simplest thing. Like, you know, can I laugh at this joke? You know, or whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, something, yeah, just call them in constantly and they will always be there for you. The more you talk to them, the more dialogue you have, the easier it'll be for you to just kind of have that wonderful relationship, that connection that you're looking for.
Exactly. And one thing I did learn over the years is I learned ask for 3 signs in 3 different ways. That really helped me. Again, my analytical mind wanted to see physical proof too. So I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I heard go back to college and get your master's. And I'm like, what? I'm not doing that. So anyway, I said, all right, well, then tell me where am I going? So I'm driving down the highway, and all of a sudden a huge sign, billboard, said Nova Southeastern University. I'm like, okay, no, that can't be coincidence. All right, driving, on the radio. Let's put some music on. Commercial. Come to Nova Southeastern University for their open house. I'm like, okay. All right, turn the radio off. Then I come home, and I get my mail, and I'm a graduate. I'm an alum of that school, okay, ironically enough. And I get a postcard from guess where? Nova Southeastern. So do you see where I mean by the 3 signs in 3 different ways? Do you think that was enough physical proof for me? So when you really ask, it's not just the asking now. This is the next part that's really hard sometimes, is to listen, and when you get the message, is next to take action. You have to take the action, because I could just listen to all the messages I want, but if I didn't go down to Nova Southeastern and actually apply and all of that, I would have never had a degree from them.
Yes.
So you have to take that action.
Yes. And just believe that it's going to work out. You don't have to know how. Just believe it will work out. Yes.
I have another client who when I had a radio show, he used to call in all the time, and he was having financial difficulty to the point where they were being kicked out like within a week at his apartment. And I just got an email from him. I was on a radio show a couple of weeks ago on somebody else's, and he called in. And I haven't heard from this gentleman for over, I don't know how many years, because it's been a couple of years since I've had my show. And can you believe now he's working, he has a new place, a new girlfriend. I mean, you had to hear this guy. It's so amazing.
Wow.
But it was a tough road. I'm not going to lie. He used to email saying, you promised. I said, hey, I didn't promise. You got to do your own work. I can guide you what helped for me, but you have to do your own work. And he finally admitted on the air that what he really, he still has some lessons to learn, but he has come such a far way, in a positive. He now understands what law of attraction is. He now understands, like you said, the movie The Secret. He understands, he finally took responsibility that it wasn't everybody else's fault. Yes. That was huge for him. And it was so amazing to hear his voice 2 weeks ago on that radio show when he called in that, see, it does work. But he had to break it down, meaning that he was grouping all this, how do you put it, negative energy, we'll call it, around him by being kicked out. He just got divorced. He was in the middle of a divorce. He lost his job. He was being, he didn't know how to feed his kids the next day. But to him, it was one big, horrible mess. But once he started breaking down each individual challenge, or I'll call it opportunity is the word I love to use, then that's when he was able to handle each thing separately. Because when you group it all together, it's hard to see through the forest. But when you do it, break it down individually, and it works for him. And it works for a lot of us. He was so great to hear how far he's come. It's fantastic.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Dierdre, can we take a couple questions before we go into announcing my Miracle Contest winners, of which you will be choosing one?
Absolutely.
Okay. Netta Joy from Monterey says, firstly, Simone, you are rapidly becoming my favorite. Oh, thank you, Netta Joy. Hi, Dierdre. Not to sound over the top overwhelming, but I am in the midst of possibility that could truly change my life, my family's life, and many, many others through 2 medical inventions. Wow. One patented and the last being reviewed for patenting as we speak. I am no Einstein, but really an artist. In separate wonder, I was just signed with an agent as a vocalist. She's having all these wonderful things happen for her, and am with a new incredible band while taking care of my mom as well. My dream is to be financially, my dream is to be financially free, I guess, and time-wise, to give gifts, help, love, financial assistance, all of it. Anything you'd like me to know, I'm listening. Beautiful, gifted Dierdre and Simone, ladies. Husband kisses, husband kisses, Netta Joy. Thank you, Netta. Beautiful, beautiful.
Wow.
So her question is,
I was just talking about that gentleman.
Yes.
How ironic is that? And same thing. What they kept saying as you were reading that beautiful letter is for her to already see what she wants. I do hear really loud and clear. She's doing so many different things, but one thing I'm hearing clear from her guides is goal setting. I know she's got things, goal setting.
Okay.
And what I'm hearing is the goal setting. And what goal setting does, it's like planting a seed. So with this goal setting, what people are afraid to say is, I need money, but they don't give an amount. So financial abundance, say exactly how much you want. Why not? Say exactly what you want. And remember you before, Simone, you mentioned, but your head, like I mentioned too, you and I agreed that your head has to match your heart with the manifestation. So with her, she's a beautiful manifester. She is there. I don't want to say almost there. She's already there. But now she's got to take it. It's like the baseball player that now has to go in for that home run. She can't quit now. And what she needs to do now, there's a little bit of belief that she doesn't fully deserve it. So remove that now, and by doing so, the floodgates are going to be opening, and they're showing me money pouring in to her.
Wow.
So just have to believe that little belief system, that something inside of her, and I'm feeling since she was a little girl it started, that's something she doesn't believe it fully. She doesn't deserve that success, financial success. But it's not just financial success. It's success, period. So, again, kind of what we talked about all night, start putting on music anytime you doubt anything. But now I want you with that goal setting. I want you to write exactly how much you want to make. And in multiple projects. Say, I want to make $5 million with this. I want to make $3 million with that. I want to make $2 with this. You have to be specific. And what works really well is I like to type on the computer 3 wishes and type it in big font and print it out and work on, once you print it out, for instance, let's say that one medical, equipment she invented? What was it, a product? Okay, so let's use as an example. Let's say this one medical product, it's going to be, I am going to make $40 million from it. So I want that in a sentence. And then print it out. Put it in your mirror in your bathroom. Tape it on the refrigerator door. Tape it in your car. And I want you to say it, and I want you to feel it. And when you feel it, think of other things that make you feel so happy when that's the money you're going to earn from that. And not just the money, because we know, wouldn't it be just easy if it was just about the money? Because we know, right, Simone, we don't do this for the money.
Yes.
It's
no,
the gratitude. Right? It's the you have to have that heart of, oh my goodness, look how many people I'm going to help. Look at millions of people I'm going to help, and how they're going to be helped, and how those people, by being a help, are going to help other millions of people being helped, and so on, and feeling this whole domino effect around it. And that's what will make it happen. That's how it'll make it happen.
Perfect.
She has to master her manifesting. That's her mantra. Master her manifesting.
Yeah, and she's doing a real good job of it. She just needs to start believing in herself now.
Correct. They're showing me like she's a baseball player coming in for that sliding into that home run, and she's not there yet because she's afraid. That last piece. Yeah. Now just keep on going. Don't stop now. You can't stop now.
Oh, let's see. Marta from Winnipeg, thank you. I see your message. It's beautiful. She says I have a beautiful, awesome, fabulous laugh. Thank you. Thank you, Marta. Let's take a Yes, I have heard that before. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Caller, you are on the air from Barrie, Ontario. Hello. Do you have a question?
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call, and yes, you have an infectious laugh. Very nice. Anyways,
thank you.
I've been trying for a very long time to quit smoking. I have the incentive, the desire, and it doesn't seem to matter how hard I try. I'm just not succeeding. I only go a short while, and then I seem to give up. I'm wondering if you can see any reason why or why this is being such a problem for me.
Well, it's interesting because when you were talking, first thing I saw is in your past lives you were also a smoker. So if you believe in past lives that we've reincarnated from other lifetimes, they're showing me other lifetimes that you, whether it was smoking a pipe or whatever, so you bring this with other lifetimes. But with that said, doesn't mean that you have to continue it. They're saying that once you emotionally say, if I quit and I do it again, that it's not really a bad thing, and you take it as this is learning, then you're going to see yourself smoking less and less. Because what we do is, a lot of people do this with food, for instance. We all say, I'm going on a diet, I'm not going to eat bread, and then 2 minutes, an hour later goes by and you eat bread, and then you beat yourself up. And it's this vicious circle, the cycle that we do. And it just emotionally beats us down. It's the same thing with the smoking. So if we turn that around and say, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to have that, and then what you do is you replace it with something positive. You know what? I'm not going to have the bread today because, you know what? I am going to go, if I don't have the bread, I'm going to go to the beach, and I'm going to replace it with something positive. So then you find yourself when you're at the beach going, wow, I love this. I don't need the bread. I'm going to go to the beach instead. And then the beach turns into, I'm going to go to the movies, and you start treating yourself. Instead of, does that make sense to you? Instead of looking at the smoking as a negative, actually turn it into, how can we make it positive? Replace it with something positive. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I just wonder if I have some belief that's making me self-sabotage myself, or think I need to punish myself, or unforgiveness, or an addiction from a past life. I'm just so.
And it's interesting. I'm sorry. Yes, and it's interesting that you use all those words, because it sounds like you've been working on yourself, so bravo. And yes, it's not anything to really, it's not just the smoking, as you know. A lot of us, yes, it's all the above. It is past life related. It is this lifetime related. It stems from childhood all the way forward. When Simone and I don't know when you listened in, but when we were talking about self-sabotaging and people causing their own diseases and illnesses and aches and pains, it does start with a thought. And the thought starts a lot of times from, let's say, it could even be a little kid next door that says, you're ugly. And then you take that personally at the age of 3, and that could last a whole lifetime with you. So every time somebody says that, that triggers something that came up when you were 3. And so, yes, it is part of, I'm not good enough, of the smoking. Because you know that smoking long-term can cause lung cancer and other cancers, period. So you know that deep within you. So absolutely, when we were talking about healing the mind, the body, and soul, you need all 3 to be interconnected in order for a miraculous healing. So spiritually, ask your guides, if you believe in them, so, hey, help me stop right now. Help me not want to ever have this feeling of wanting a cigarette ever again. Give me the signs. Give me the encouragement. So that will be the spiritual side of it. Then the mind, when I was talking about, for me, when I had my healing, is anytime I thought negative about myself or somebody else, I quickly changed my thoughts to positive. And with that, a healing happened. Did it happen overnight? No. But I'll tell you, music for me was wonderful. I put on my disco, and that helped me. So the mind, and then the body. Also, I know there's other methods they have out there to stop smoking, like the gum and other things, if you want an oral fixation, a remedy for that. That you can kind of ease yourself out of the physical part of the smoking and replace it with something positive. So again, all 3 have to be in sync for the healing to happen.
I'm sensing a sadness in her, some sort of, low energy, and I'm not sure where that's coming from, but you have to raise your vibration, as Dierdre is saying. You have to start being joyful about life and the things that you have to be grateful for. And I think that's one of the areas that you really have to start working on.
One thing that keeps coming up for you, too, is forgiveness. I feel Simone is spot on. And I'm coming from, I don't know if it was your dad, but a father figure keeps coming up that might have had something, where it stemmed from. And sometimes we're not even aware of, parents don't mean to be mean or, affect us, and sometimes it does. A lot of us have been affected over the years, but absolutely, Simone, I feel the same way, that do some forgiveness. One thing I learned early on, an exercise I used to do is I used to visualize somebody that I had an issue with, I would close my eyes and visualize them in front of me. And I would allow myself to yell at them all the stuff from the past and scream until I didn't have it anymore in me. And then at the end, I would hug them. And the first time I did that exercise, I felt like I wanted to punch the person. It was like that, maybe I wanted to kill them, But then each time I did it, when you finally get to the point where you want to hug them, when you do hug them, that you feel this unconditional love for them, is when you know it's healed.
Yes. Thank you, caller. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's take a couple more. I hope I added some time to this webcast. I hope that works and that we don't all get cut off at some point. But we'll see. Okay, let's see. Netta Joy says, "Oh, Dierdre and Simone, I'm receiving the release. I am open, asking for healing of that little wounded girl. I doubt it. I do deserve this. Sliding into home base, Dierdre." Yes, on the specific mouth for goals. She says, "My heart is full of gratitude for you, and my eyes full of tears. Love, hugs and kisses." Oh, thank you, Netta. Beautiful. Okay, let's see. Pamela is saying, "I have started on my own journey to be an angel messenger and healer, but I don't know how to get to the next level. Any advice?"
Oh, it's funny. I remember we were talking about this before, but they're capitalizing the word trust. Every single letter in that word. They said trust. Channel, ask your angels for the next steps. One thing is they want her to do is, Pamela, they want you to, you're ready for readings if you're not already doing them, and to get paid for it. I feel Pamela, either she does it for free or very little money. She needs to trust that you're just charging for your time. A lot of healers go through this, where they feel like, I shouldn't charge. This is, a natural ability. Who am I? But really, something I learned early in my career from my grandmother is she would say to me, "Well, how much money did you spend on those classes? How much money did you pay to stay at that hotel, go to that conference? Or how much did it cost for that airline ticket?" And when I started adding things up, she says, "Okay, you're not charging for your abilities, you're charging for your time." And that really helped me. And that's what I'm getting with Pamela. She's ready. She's been ready. Reminds me of myself. And she just needs you, Pamela, you just need words of encouragement that you are ready, you've been ready. Practice. Do your business cards yesterday and market yourself. Let people know. And I'm hearing house parties for you, Pamela, that you would be really good at parties, meaning women want to get together and you would like to, people pay where you do group readings, or you could do individual readings in another room. I feel, Pamela, you would be really good at that. And that's also a great way to advertise yourself. But you're ready, Pamela. That's how you're going to get started. And once you, and the biggest thing is people ask me, how much do I charge? Channel it. Ask the angels how much to charge, because don't compare yourself to anybody. That was one thing I learned, that if you charge too low, you won't get business, and if you charge too high, you won't get business. Yes. Channel, and the angels give wonderful raises. Trust it.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Okay, Michelle from Fiskville says, "What is the career that will make me most joyful and independent money-wise?"
Ooh, and her name is Michelle?
Michelle, and I think it's Fiskville. I've never heard of that, but yeah, Fiskville.
Okay, that's okay. I was just getting her vibration. First thing that came up for her was creativity. That if your name is Michelle, if I'm mispronouncing, I apologize, but what I'm getting is whatever you end up doing, it has to be creative. It has to be creative. It's not a job that you wouldn't be happy in a 9-to-5 accounting position. That would not make you happy. So whatever you do, they're spelling out the word magazine, and they're telling me she's very creative. They're telling me the word editor, publishing, anything in that field, writing, work with writers, authors, publishers, working for herself as a multi-hearing consultant in that industry. They're saying writers, to work with writers, to have her work with writers, magazines, blogging. So anything in that creative writing field, communications, she would also be very good, working with speakers, conferences. So, and I keep hearing self-employment. So that's something she should look at. She's another one. She's been ready to do this work, and somehow, I don't know if she thinks that she's not qualified to do it, but tell her, well, she can hear me, obviously. You can. You're qualified. Just trust it.
Believe in yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to take one last question because I've never, ever added time and stayed on the webcast to see if it works, and I don't want to get cut off. But let's take one last question, and then we'll announce the Miracle Contest winners, and we'll close our wonderful summit for this period of time. Steph from, I believe it's Warwick, says, is it time, and this is a deep question, is it time to make a move in my marriage? Mm-hmm. I know I want to leave and have already emotionally left. Is it time for the physical move?
Oh, that's always a toughie. You know, I would say.
I know. I don't know if I want to give an answer to that.
Well, I'll tell you what usually comes up, and it's coming up for her. And what I love is and I always say this, especially when I do group readings like we're doing right now, is even though I'm going to direct this to Beth, for those of you that are also listening in or may listen later, also listen, even though I'm directing it towards Beth, it's probably for you too. And what I've learned over the years, and now the guides always tell me this, and they're telling me to share this with Beth, is work on yourself first. Once you work on you, and I'll never forget when I went to a conference one time and the speaker said, the speaker actually asked that, an audience member said exactly what Beth asked, when should I leave? And the speaker said this, and I loved it, where they said, when you truly love the other person unconditionally, yes. Leave. And the person looked at them like they were absolutely crazy. And I finally got what they meant. They said, because if you leave when you're mad, you're sad, you don't feel good about yourself, your self-esteem is not where it should be, and trust in the process, that's not the time to leave. But when you fully have embraced it and that person realizing that now that you absolutely love that person unconditionally is when it's time to leave.
Yes. That's perfect, Dierdre. Yeah, because you know when you love like that, when you can accept someone for all of their faults, all of the stuff that happened between you, and you know the stuff that's not even working out, you're ready for a different walk in life. It's really a different type of love that you're tapping into, and you'll see other things just open up for you. You know, and I think Dierdre is so right, because if you leave in a position where you're still angry or frustrated or whatever it is the emotion is, because that's what I'm picking up on, it's just you're going to carry that into whatever it is that you're going into, you know, you leaving from. You're still going to have that stuff with you. It's just stuff that you're going to carry over with you. So, yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Dierdre, you've been wonderful. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for putting this all together flawlessly and really enlightening so many people out there and fulfilling your purpose and helping us fulfill ours.
Yes, 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 yes. Just fantastic. This whole summit has been truly amazing for me. Spiritually, I have grown in so many ways, and I am just truly blessed to have been guided to do this.